Hey guys, I'm Katie and wanted to show you in this video how to get connected to our Facebook page. So go over to our page and make sure that you like us and then follow us. When you follow us, check the box See First and keep your notifications on. Here on your phone, I'm going to show you how to like and follow our page. First you click like, then the three dots on the side, click following, make sure you enable notifications, and click See First so that we're the first thing that you see on your newsfeed. Be sure to like our Facebook page to get updates on what's happening at Family Church. Thank you so much for watching. Hi guys, I'm Katie and we at Family Church wanted to show you guys how to give on our live stream website. At live.ourfamily.church, you will see the option to give online on the right-hand side of your screen. You will be taken to a safe environment where you can see that your connection is secure. There are two options when you go to give. You can give one time or set up a reoccurring gift. So that's it, but we really want to know how we can support you and your family during this time. So please let us know and we'll continue to be praying for you guys. Hi guys, I'm Katie and we wanted to show you a cool feature of how you can invite your friends to watch online with you while you're watching the live stream. You can click on this plus button where it will pull up a list of your friends where you can invite them to join you in watching the live stream. You can do the same on your mobile device. So if you go to this share button here, you will be given a list of your friends where you can send them an invite to watch along with you while you're watching the live stream. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we hope you stay connected with us and make sure to like our Facebook page so that you can get all of the updates on what's happening here at Family Church. Hi guys, I'm Katie and we at Family Church wanted to show you guys how to give on our live stream website. At live.ourfamily.church, you will see the option to give online on the right-hand side of your screen. You will be taken to a safe environment where you can see that your connection is secure. There are two options when you go to give. You can give one time or set up a reoccurring gift. So that's it, but we really want to know how we can support you and your family during this time. So please let us know and we'll continue to be praying for you guys.
Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday. Thanks for joining us on our online community here with Family Church. First things first, please hit that share button. The share button is so important because there are people that are friends in your Facebook that you can reach right now, being able to help them understand what's going on right now. I think they'll enjoy the topic that we have. So hit the share, let your friends be a part of this, maybe even host your own watch party. The other thing that's important is online small groups. We have really realized during all this pandemic that people are connecting like never before. Many of our numbers are actually up with people connecting with one another through the small groups. And, maybe a number of factors, what's going on in our world, but we're seeing that people are really enjoying it. So this is a great time to connect. We're going to continue the online small groups that we have. Of course, some will get back together and meet on a regular basis, but if that's something that's convenient for you, check out our group finder. And there are so many different times and places, and people would love for you to join their groups. Go ahead and do that. Also, tomorrow, Wednesday, from 10 to 12, our church office at the Windermere campus will be open, and we would love for you to stop by. Some of you have your tithes that you want to drop off. Some of you have some items for our Dream Center. We would love for you to come by and either drop off those items, say hi, and if you have that tithe, please drop it off. There's so many different prayer requests that people are going through. I go through the prayer requests, And the depth of the need out there is very real. And so just know that you're being prayed for. There are a number of ways you can get your prayer requests to us. You can see those on the screen right now. Whatever way works best for you, we just want you to know that you're not going through all of this alone, but there is a church, there's a family that is there supporting you all throughout. And thanks, as always, for giving. Many of you have been giving sacrificially. We appreciate your gifts. You help us to continue to do the best we can do in providing this online community we have. We know it's a way of ministering. We couldn't do it unless you were giving. You know, today's show, we've done another show like this before. It's called The Doctors Are In. But this time we got some real doctors. You know, last time we had those theological doctors and everything. Yeah, these are real medical doctors that we have with us today. And they all go to our church, different campuses, but we wanted them to give their expertise on what's going on right now and help answer some questions. We got with us, first of all, Dr. Jerry Cartzenell. He's a pediatrician, also a speaker, goes to our Lakeside campus. We appreciate you being here today. A lot of your focus is with special needs families and that sort of thing. So we're going to appreciate some of your answers to these questions.
Very good.
And we have Dr. Libby Campbell here. She's a family counselor and has been doing a lot of work, been very busy recently. So we want to find out sort of what are the people's needs that are out there. And we have Dr. Kristen Steffes, and she is a family medicine physician. So many different expertise here. We appreciate you coming. You know, the first thing that's really on our mind that we need to start off and talk about this is what is the coronavirus, and really how does it attack a patient? We're going to start with you, Kristen.
Well, the coronavirus is a virus as opposed to a bacteria, which can also cause infections. It's similar to the other coronaviruses that we've experienced before with the MERS and SARS. It is.
This doesn't seem like that. I mean, there were big deals, but certainly not to this extent.
Not here, exactly. Yeah. So we didn't get the brunt of that. So the virus is spread fairly easily. Mm-hmm. It's a new thing that we haven't learned a lot about.
And we're learning fast.
We're learning fast, but it's usually spread through the respiratory tract, so coughing, sneezing, speaking, and it's pretty easily transmissible.
So is it the flu?
It has been compared to the flu, and it does have flu-like symptoms. Cough, fever, body aches, feeling tired. There's some newer symptoms that have been reported, such as a loss of taste and smell, some GI symptoms. So in terms of what the symptoms are, it is similar for most people who have it. Certainly people who have the flu can also get as sick and end up hospitalized with pneumonia, but...
So certain people seem more susceptible. They're really older people they've been talking about, or people with pre-existing conditions, right?
Sure.
And what would those conditions be? I mean, obviously they're saying older people can be more susceptible.
Older people, you tend to lose your immune system as you age. If you have a smoking history or COPD or asthma, certainly things that affect the lungs directly, because that's the part that we worry about with the virus. But other things, diabetes, heart disease, even hypertension has been linked to having a higher risk. So it's just some of the chronic illnesses. And
then children, they're talking about that the children don't seem as susceptible, which seems kind of interesting.
It is interesting, and thankfully so, but no, they're not as, kids are resilient, so they're not as susceptible to the bad outcomes. So, kids may have a very mild form of the illness, and they have their runny nose and may or may not run a temperature, and so you may not ever know that they would have it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things that we're learning about this, and so many things that we're facing and dealing with right now. Libby, you're working, you were even saying this morning you had patients, so you're actively dealing with patients.
Yes.
So everything that's going on, so maybe just the fear of the coronavirus in addition to the isolation that's happening, what are some of the problems that you're seeing in your practice?
Right. One thing that's been really interesting in the process of dealing with COVID-19 is the parallels to the 5 stages of grief. And if anybody knows them, it's denial and bargaining are the beginning phases. And you could see that as we were going through the process of like, no, it's not going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to my family.
It's a China problem, or it's another state's problem.
Yeah.
It's not ours. Okay.
Yep. And then you come into more of like the depression is a third stage. And that's really depression, anxiety.
Okay.
We have to add in there. And it's a complicated grief process where, because you've got the loss of being able to interact with people, you've got the financial loss, you've got the health loss and the fears. Yeah. And then we go into anger. And then the final stage is acceptance. So you definitely, we're kind of all in the United States right now dealing with the depression, anxiety, moving into the anger stage. So I think we'll see a change in it, hopefully for the better.
So that's interesting. So you're comparing it to the grieving process. What exactly are we grieving? What is it that has died that is causing us to grieve?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really the answer to that is that we've got the loss of the life that we used to know. We have the loss, we feel isolated and we can't hang out with our friends, and we have to come up with new coping techniques to our stressors. So that would be
control,
Yeah.
You lose what you think you have control over, and for a lot of people that's a reality that you don't have control, which I think Pastor Chuck did a good job of explaining.
You're talking about your job and your family and your finances. It's out of control right now. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to show up in many different ways. Yeah. And so much like if someone were to die, there's nothing you can do about it, and you're seeing a death of people's lives, mm-hmm. in a way. Sometimes it's literal and it's medical, but sometimes it's just the way that we always hoped it would be.
Yeah, it's like an emotional. It's an emotion.
Right. So, Jerry, you deal specifically with special needs families.
That's correct.
And we had on a few special needs parents on one of our shows, so we got the perspective on the front line and everything. What are you seeing with them, and how are they dealing with this situation?
Well, it's very difficult. When we talk about stress, we talk about anxiety. It's a maladaptive response by the body when it's confronted with a situation that they feel out of control with, and they'll release way too much adrenaline. Every decision becomes a crisis point for them that in normal times would not be. And when you have special needs children at home and you don't have the support services that you're accustomed to, and now you are the provider not only for the child as a parent, but now as a teacher and the behavioral specialist and the speech therapist and the time that you have to spend with them, arts and crafts, and it's very, very difficult. And some of the parents will joke and say that I've moved from red wine to tequila, and so these are coping mechanisms, and I say they're maladaptive. This is not a healthy way to go, but they're just trying to survive. And I'm worried about after this is over, these maladaptive behaviors that they've acclimated to aren't going to just go away. In fact, they might actually worsen.
Right.
Control. That was an interesting point you brought up about control. But routine was one of the things that the mothers brought up as special needs families, that the routine was gone. And so they had to sort of now change and find new routines. And that's seemed to be something that they're dealing with a lot also.
Well, children on the autism spectrum love routine. They love a schedule. And where they have problems with what we call transitions, now they're being forced to acclimate to a whole different set of rules led by mom and maybe even dad, who's not used to being in the house during the day. Creates a dysfunctional atmosphere. And the parents get aggravated because the child is agitated, irritated, not sleeping well, not eating, tantruming with other children in the home, both neurotypical, and some of these families have 2 or more special needs kids. It creates just a quagmire of stress and irritability. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, what are we, 7 weeks, 6 weeks?
I lost track.
I know.
Nobody knows. Let's say it's 7 weeks. We're 7 weeks in. Are we seeing cases dropping? They're always talking about that curve, and we want to get on that side of it. Is that what you're hearing in your reports?
Yes, our area especially has done pretty well. We've, I guess, around the early to mid-April started seeing that decline, and it's been pretty steady and holding for a while now. And as the state of Florida in general has done pretty well, except for the Miami area, which, you know, they're actually still going to be on quarantine, unlike the rest of the state. But
Right.
we've done well. Our death rate, we've actually come across the bell and are going down rather than plateauing on the death rate.
All right.
So it's given us time to acquire things like medical equipment and use our resources, because it's not going to go away.
Right.
It's not going to go away, but it's going to allow us to handle it better once we open up.
Well, that's good. So the hospitals are more equipped now and during this time for all of this. Now, you're dealing with patients, I don't know what kind of curve we're looking at with anxiety and depression and everything, but do you think things are leveling out, or are they just picking up?
The existing clients are doing a great job. They're using their skills, but what I'm starting to see is I'm getting the phones weren't ringing for a while because everyone's kind of hunkering down. But now there's definitely an increase. Like some clients I saw 8 years ago are now, I need a tune-up, and newer clients are coming in. And I think a lot of it has to do with being furloughed and not knowing, because a lot of my clients are in the Disney and Universal and SeaWorld, the hospitality industries.
And they were taken care of for a few weeks, and now that
right.
they're... Right.
Yeah, they were paid up until a certain point, now they're furloughed. So that's going to pull up your anxiety and your worries and the lack of control. Yeah. So in that aspect, it's coming up. And I totally agree with what you were saying as far as like the alcohol has been a coping technique, and even like with anxiety and depression, it starts out situational. And if it goes on too long, it switches over to what we call the chemical imbalance. And then now we've got more, then it's a medical, then you have to possibly need a physician for medication or whatever. Right. So we really want to grab it on the front end and have people get in and get help, get into small groups, turn to God, so that it doesn't go on too long.
Right, right. And so, you think about isolation itself, and maybe, medically it's good for some things, but I also wonder, while we've helped to sort of bend that curve when it comes to this virus, we're also sort of having to deal with other things, because isolation is really never, ever good for human beings.
Right.
And so, Jerry, as you see, isolation happening, what are some of the problems that you're worried about with people? They've been isolated too long from society.
Well, the whole question about isolation, what was the purpose of it? Are we using isolation to prevent death, or are we using isolation to prevent disease? And the problem is we're not going to prevent disease, but we certainly can prevent death. At least we learn more about it, as we were talking about earlier, of learning who's going to be more susceptible to a bad outcome, and that'd be the elderly. So now that we know who it is, and it's not the children, okay. Now, Spanish flu is different. The Spanish flu, it did target the children and the young adults, and this one doesn't. So it's like, well, we have the wrong segments isolated at this point, and I think they're starting to realize that as the data comes in. But isolation is isolating people from their church, isolating people from the small group touch, and it's going to change the landscape. It's not healthy to be isolated. We are social beings. We need to have our social networks. And like you were saying, people are starting to get angry. And I think that's because they're tired of being isolated. They want to get out in a group setting.
Well, the Bible makes it very clear we're made for that. We're made for that sort of relationship with other people. And if that goes on too long, I can't see it being beneficial. Maybe medically there are some, benefits of it. We're not spreading other sorts of diseases.
Well, you're not spreading other diseases. You're not on the road getting in car accidents. So, but I think, up to a certain point. So at some point, like you said, this was never meant to be an indefinite thing. This was meant to buy time and prevent the spread for a small time. And do some research,
so it gave them time to
learn things and figure out how we can cope with this moving forward. But the isolation, especially with the elderly, those are usually the ones that, may live alone, may not have their spouse anymore. They're the most susceptible to depression. I've seen people or, former alcoholics that are turning back to old habits their family members aren't able to check on them, and so things may be getting missed. They're putting off screening their mammograms because they're afraid to go, to
That's a great point.
the radiology departments. They're afraid to come into the doctor. Our volumes are overall hugely down, and so we're encouraging people to come into the office, trying to alleviate fears, letting them know that we're using proper precautions. We have masks and we're cleaning and we're keeping patients separated so that they get the care that they need for the 99.9% of other problems that are out there.
And I just wonder, what are the side effects of a lack of trust? Because they're not even trusting the medical community to go into the doctor's office. What's going to be the repercussion of something like that? If we start not trusting right now, which is what isolation does, we start to not trust things, we're in big trouble. And now you got people dealing with anxiety, right? And dealing with alcoholism and dealing with a number of different addictions. If you stop trusting other people, that doesn't lead to healing, does it?
Right. Yeah. It's compounds the whole process.
And so, what do you have to do to sort of pivot in order to help people mentally begin to heal in a world that just the theme seems to be we're not getting better, and that's got to affect people. Yeah.
In general, there's 5 points that I try to bring up with clients, and my husband and I came up with a little acronym of SMILE. So it's like, my number one is like the S is like say no to media, say no to the news. So check the news, don't follow the news, don't watch it nonstop. And then number 2, the M is like make time for God. You have to do a devotion or your small group, and every day really lean into God and not try to do this alone, and you're not alone. And then I stands for I need a routine. I'm big. All my clients, the first week, I'm like, they're all like, what can I do, Dr. Libby? And I'm like, you have to come up with a routine and a schedule. Set your alarm. Every day I set my alarm. I get ready and I'm doing my telehealth. I'm dressed for work, even though I'm sitting in my little study in my house. Right. Eat properly. And then it's the same like with the special needs kids, or all of them. And then the L stands for love others. I'm a big advocate. If you're going to come to me for counseling, you're going to be doing something for other people. So that helps us, because then we're not isolated. It might be like bake cookies and drop them off, or mow the grass for the neighbor.
Don't make it all about yourself.
Exactly, because that's part of isolation is you become inward, and depression is really, you become very inward, and you have to be like, get out of your shell. And then the last one is doing evaluate. I say all the time, like, what you feed grows. So if you feed anxiety, you're going to grow anxiety. Right. If you feed kindness and love, you're going to feel kindness and love. So
yeah, that's good. So we have to, what you're kind of saying is right now we need to start addressing these things. Don't wait till everyone says it's okay to go outside. Right now, wherever we're at, we have to begin to address our mental health and our spiritual health also. Jerry, what are some of the things you're worried about as we come out of this? That I hope there's some good that comes out of it. There's a lot of good things we've seen that are people being home, families at home, but there are some negative things that we need to keep our eye on right now. What worries you about what happens when we come out of isolation?
I think it's kind of what we've been discussing is the fear of going out. I think there's in a large segment of the population an underlying or overt fear of germs already.
Right.
And this has just fed that phobia. And I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to be very, yes, they want to get together, but they're also fearful of what they might catch. And I think there's a human tendency toward that fear, and this has just ignited that. I see just the short term, these moms are showing me their hands from all the Clorox that they're washing their hands, and the wipes and the chlorine and the antiseptics. And you never really want to put on your hands what you wouldn't put in your mouth. So they got all these chemicals going, and I think that's going to hurt their brains. And if they're doing it to their kids, every time they go out, don't touch this, don't touch that. And then we get into that hygiene hypothesis, meaning that we are meant to be exposed to germs. We are meant to play in the dirt. We are meant to interact with others to build our immune system. And that might actually get stifled and make us more prone to infection the next time it comes around.
Yeah. And I think also the other thing, not only dealing with ourselves medically and spiritually, but physically, we're getting in a lot of bad habits. I know I've missed the gym. I mean, it was like 3 times a week I would go. Now I try to walk, and it's tough to do some of those things. So we're going to see an increase in probably obesity, probably diabetes, and those sort of things.
I have found my patients are in one of 2 categories. They have either lost 10 or gained 10 pounds. Probably
Okay.
more gain than anything, but either people have used this time to kind of readdress their eating habits and exercise lifestyle, or build upon, their foundation of it, or they've kind of used it as an excuse and have been at home, and you tend to eat more when you're at home, and because out of boredom or out of anxiety, or
Right.
using it as a coping mechanism. So I try to encourage people, as Libby said, to stay in a routine, have your meals, plan your exercise, because exercise is a huge component of mental health and battling that. So just being outside, and we live in the great state of Florida where you have the opportunity to do that.
A lot.
And you should continue with those good habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And make that appointment to go see your doctor also, right? I mean,
We
don't
were,
be
we were
afraid
at
of-
Target this weekend. All the cake mixes were gone. So there's a lot of baking going
Oh,
on.
okay. Well, maybe they're celebrating and having parties, which would be good.
Yeah.
It'd be bad if they're eating all that sugar.
Yeah, and
during
the
this time.
spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, spaghetti sauce and the pasta.
Well, and here's another thing that was interesting, and we joked about this as we were talking about the segment. But what's up with the toilet paper? It seemed like kind of a funny thing. It was always a nice punchline, but it seemed to say something about
yeah.
our culture. What would be your prognosis?
Okay, I have something funny about the toilet paper. So I thought, like, golly, maybe there's maybe there's a symptom of like diarrhea or something with the. So I'm Googling it, like, what's up? And it really wasn't at that point. So then I started thinking about it psychologically, and it has to go back to the control issue. It's like, I can't control COVID-19, but I can make sure I've got my supplies in place. And so that's my take on it. It was a way of dealing with an OCD, almost like a compulsive
It seemed like
treatment
someone
for
just
it.
started it and just said, "Oh no, we're running out of toilet paper," and now it was like a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
Which just says to me, everything is fear-based these days. It's not necessarily medical-based. Like, we have facts necessarily, because nobody agrees on the facts, but we all seem to agree on the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start operating on fear, Jerry, what is the problem with that?
Well, first of all, that seems to be a trend in human nature. If you Google 50 years of doomsday apocalypses,
Right.
you will see all of these things from, when I was growing up in Los Angeles in the 60s, they said we were going into an ice age because it snowed on our house in California. And they wanted to sprinkle carbon dust on the polar ice caps to increase the temperature. Okay, and everybody was getting into that. And then, of course, we remember all kinds of things that have come along since then. Islands were going to disappear, and flooding, and the ozone was dissipating because of my underarm deodorant or whatever.
Yes.
So that seems to really sell, and people like to glob onto that. They've always said, if it bleeds, it leads in the news. They like dark stuff. Okay. So, but what that does to us internally is our adrenal glands get involved with those fear crisis modes, okay? The fight or flight mode. And all of a sudden, the things that modulate that, such as cortisol, which is a hormone, actually can go up or become diminished, and you get into this like adrenal fatigue kind of period, or you're looking at every situation as a crisis, and your body naturally responds to the crisis by releasing adrenaline. And adrenaline will increase the heart rate, will increase the blood pressure. For men, it turns off logic and reasoning. You can't argue with a man who's angry, right? Everybody knows that.
No.
So that's, not you, of course. But all of a sudden you have these issues going on, and that's why discussions get heated, and then the anger comes, just like that normally shouldn't bother you. That's adrenaline mediated. And then if you get what's called noradrenaline, that's when you want to start hitting or breaking things or throwing things. And that's more of for our kids, they start biting or doing self-injurious behaviors. We actually have 2 kinds of adrenaline. But and you're running now on adrenaline, and then you're running on coffee, and then you're running on alcohol, and you're creating what you said, just a tremendous chemical imbalance that's
Right.
just not good for calmness.
And this sort of fear that we sort of see in our nation. Our nation was already polarized in many ways. So now let's add a pandemic on it. And then once again, we get polarized. And so all we see is polarization. We don't know where to turn. We don't know what to trust. Is this doctor right? Is that doctor right? This person's being silenced. This person we can trust. It's crazy. So, a lot of what we're dealing with here in this is a trust issue, and we have to start breaking out of it. So we only have a few minutes left. But I want to find out from each of you, if there was one thing this week, as we begin to see Florida sort of opening up just a little bit, what's one thing you would say this week that someone could say, I'm going to get prepared for this and I want to be healthy? Start with you, Kristen.
Well, I'm going to go back to the exercise because it's going to help to calm some of those hormones and kind of get your adrenaline out, if you will. So keeping routines, doing your exercise, getting out of the house a little bit. I'm cautiously optimistic that this week we'll move forward as a society and putting one foot in front of the other to start getting back to normal. So
Okay. All right, that's good. Libby,
That's
what
a
would you
great
say?
one. I'm going to go with really staying in the present moment and not anticipating, because I always think like anxiety is kind of like you're chasing the wind. You really can't see it and you don't know where it's at, but you're just chasing it. So I'm always like, pull it back, stay in the moment, and think of it like not what if, but what is. What is going on right now is I'm not sick, my family's not sick, I'm wearing my face mask, just stay in the moment and enjoy.
Yeah,
Enjoy where you're at. We don't know. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah, there's too much
So-
of this what if and looking to the future.
Yeah.
You don't know. Doctors aren't sure. We really don't know. So just where are you at right now? That's good. Jerry?
Well, the secular community would say we should spend more time meditating. For us as Christians, more time in prayer, giving our fears to the Lord, working with the Lord, reading the Bible. In small group that I lead, I'm constantly in the Bible studying, and it is just a time to block out everything. So I think enriching your prayer life, your study time, and letting God know you're angry because you lost your job, or, it's okay. He's Father, Abba. We can go to Him with our concerns and worries, and definitely pray for the kids and your spouses too. There's no shortage there. But I think that, along with eating right and exercise, getting those excessive hormones out of your system, it's just a winning solution.
With all that we do know, it would be terrible for us to come out of this worse. If we can come out of this better, as a church, as an individual, as a Christian, as a group, this is the opportunity to do it. And it's going to begin with our faith. Who are we going to trust? God has the hairs in our head counted. He knows the cells in the body. He knows all of those sort of things. He's got that. It's His decision. We trust Him also with our future. If we're sick or we're not sick, it's in God's hands. And we love Him and we worship Him through all of it. And use this time of isolation to put our emphasis on our faith. This could be a great time. Let's just hope we don't miss it and take steps backwards as a society and, as we're talking about as a church. Appreciate all of you being here, giving your expertise here. There's really a lot to think about and to help us sort of with that next step. And thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is worship and, of course, communion. And so this is a great time for us to join as a family and show our faith in the one who we really love and who we really trust, and that's Jesus Christ. Thanks for being here, and have a good night.